I think we will now turn to our worst films. And in at number 5 is a Christmas film, Red One, which was shit.
I refuse to watch it. I've got to the point now. What was that film The Rock was in? Was it called Jungle Cruise? The one that's got Deadpool in it and Wonder Woman. I turned on Dwayne a little bit there because I thought it's just crap. It's just generic rubbish. And this Red One looked more of the same to me, and I feel like he's turned into a bit of a paycheck actor. You don't see him in challenging roles, or he's always The Rock in it now.
Red Notice.
Is that what it's called?
Red Notice, yeah.
Oh right. Where did Jungle Cruise is a different film he was in then?
It was in that. It was in Welcome to the Jungle, or The Rundown.
Well, this is sort of proving my point, because I can't distinguish these different films apart. It's all just The Rock doing The Rock stuff. And you even hear these rumours about it's in his contract that he can't lose a fight on screen
unless Steve Austin's in it.
What? Oh, controversial. It's almost become a product.
He never plays another character, though, does he? We've discussed this before, that if you go and see... there's Dave Bautista, who came from the same background of wrestling, and Dave Bautista plays characters. He's acting. The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, plays The Rock. He's
just reading the lines as himself.
Smouldering. Yeah, it's just... I get put off by seeing a film with him in it now, because him and Ryan Reynolds are both very similar in the fact that they play the same archetypal character that is suited to them, because let's face it, their range as actors is pretty small. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is he's brilliant as Deadpool because he is that character. He's very quick-witted, but The Rock always has to be the bulking kind of... Yeah, he was quick-witted in WWF or WWE, and that kind of lends it to playing that kind of character. But
I did it for The Rock.
Every time I see him in a film now, I'm just like, can't you do anything else?
I think the die was cast in that episode of Star Trek Voyager, where he was basically just The Rock in that, and I don't think he ever really moved on. He's just still doing that same gig. Yeah. He did The Rock Bottom in it, didn't he?
I know, yeah. Rock Bottom 7 or 9.
And I don't think he has really acted much more than that. He just played the same role.
No. And it's also got Chris Evans in it, who is... Yeah, it's the same kind of like comic booky type of quick-witted kind of... So this is the other thing I was thinking of, Whatever Happened to the Action movie, which is a video I'm going to come out with very soon, and this has got a part to play in it, that the superhero genre and this kind of film have really done away with the out-and-out action films, because they're trying to appease to a larger demographic of kids as well as adults. And you get actors like Chris Evans who do a film like this because it's got The Rock in it as well, or it's got star power, and I want to be a part of this as well. And it doesn't matter how bad it is.
Well, it's a production line, isn't it?
It's a production line film. Yeah, no one's going to remember this film in a year's time. No one's going to go back and say, "Oh, it's Christmas time. Let's put Red One on."
We talked about the substance earlier. This is at the complete opposite end of that spectrum. It's
got no substance.
Generic. I mean, there's even like rumours is a strong word, but theories that some of these films are being written by AI because they're just so generic.
I wouldn't dispute that. It's Do you know what? Red One, poor film, very bland. The action in it is just so... I've seen this 1,000 times before in Marvel films. Steer clear of it. Well, the next one is one that I still haven't watched because I refuse to, which is probably your favourite film of the year, The Crow.
I'll be honest, mate, it wasn't even my favourite film I saw that day.
No, that was our number 2 on the other list.
Yeah, so I went and watched Alien Romulus and The Crow on the same day. I think this is why I remember the Alien so fondly, because in comparison to the Crow remake, it was like a masterpiece. The Crow, I've mentioned this before, I'll say it again, in and of itself, it's not the worst film I've ever seen. It's an okay film. But where they've gone wrong is, it's almost like a film they've written and then attached another IP to it afterwards and bolted it on, if that makes sense, and shoehorned in a bit about the Crow. Because the Crow in itself was a character in the original Brandon Lee Crow. In this film, it's just sort of there, flying around in the background. You could remove the Crow elements and it'll be a pretty similar film. I mean, he doesn't actually become the Crow until like the last 20 minutes or something. It lost a lot of points because the director or whoever said, look, this is our own film, don't compare it to the first one. You can't call them the same characters and ask people to disregard the first film. It didn't work like that. If it had called them Bob and Holly...
Bob Holly? Isn't he a wrestler?
Bob and Holly, yeah. I did that to see if you'd pick up on that. But if they'd done that, I think the film might have been a touch better received because you are doing something new. But when you're doing something with older character names, they're the only two that carry over to this film from that first film. Why bother? Just call them something different. You can't have it both ways. And if you do, make it good, which they didn't. It was a disappointment, I'll be honest. And that's about as much time as I want to give to it.
Yeah, I think we'll move on because we have discussed that one
to death.
And
talk about how much the death is going to come back for revenge.
Yeah. So the next one we're going to talk about is a film that we've discussed quite a lot, and it really annoyed me the direction that Todd Phillips went with it, and that's Joker 2 or Joker Folie à Deux. Just call it Joker 2 for fuck's sake. Just why go in that direction? It was a film that didn't need to be made. The first one stood brilliantly on its own. It did everything it needed to do. It kept intrigue as to how this fits into the overall Batman universe. It didn't need to be anything else. If anything, I watched Jeremy Jahns did his 2024 worst films, and I think he's got this quite high up on his list. And he was saying about, and I really agreed with this, it should have just kept it in Arkham, about how the Joker takes over Arkham or something. I thought, actually, that probably would have made a far better narrative.
There's so many different ways you could have made that film, and all of those ways would have been better. I mean, the reason for me it's not higher up the list is, as a film, it's actually quite well made. I think how it's shot and lit and everything is actually good.
That's why it's number 3.
That's why it's only at 3 and not 1. But the actual direction they took it in, and I've said it to you before, if you're going to do this, don't make it about the Joker. Because there was this narrative I've seen online of, if you want the same old stuff, go back and watch older films. He's gone in a new direction. People paid to watch the Joker from the Batman stories become the Joker. The story they told would have been better suited to an original character, which I would have enjoyed that a lot more. I get the story and why they've done it a certain way, because it's the story they're telling and the message they want to send. Don't do that with a character like the Joker, because people want to see the Joker.
I did see a comment, just kind of echoing what you said there, where somebody had criticised it on Twitter, and somebody else says, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And I'm like, well, what is the point in saying something like that? Because how do you know if you don't like it until you watch it? I mean, I'm kind of shitting on myself a little bit here, because there's plenty of films I won't watch because I know I won't like it. But because the Joker, the first one was so good, why would you not give the second one a go, even if you've heard rumblings that it's not as good? It could never be as good, in my opinion.
Yeah, because about 2/3 of the way in, I thought, this ain't that bad. If it can be salvaged, because I thought it was going to break out and it was going to take over, and I could get past the musical part. I could live with that, but it was what they did for the rest of the film. It'd be like making a Batman film where he never really becomes Batman and just gets beat up and just dies.
It's just man.
Could you imagine the outrage that if they did that? Just don't do it. Do something different. I had this thought when I watched the first Joker film, as much as I really enjoyed it and I thought it was really great, I thought to myself, that didn't actually have to be the Joker, did it? They could have...
No.
That could have just been Arthur Fleck. And if they didn't have the DC license and they called it a different name, it would have been just as good.
Oh, yeah.
It was almost like an afterthought. And then with this film, I don't know what they were doing. I've never seen a sequel that bad. It stunk out the first one. And it makes it feel a bit different, the first one.
Right, let's move on from Joker 2, because I'm sick of talking about it. So from one comic book adaptation pile of shit for another one was Madame Web is number 2. It's one of those films that it's so bad, it's actually quite good. It's so memeable.
What's going on with these Sony films? What, are they making them really bad on purpose?
There must be. because the same person who wrote Madame Web, who wrote
Morbius. I've even heard this Craven film's terrible. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
Is it like a joke between some executives or something?
It must be. I mean, these are all Spider-Man films without Spider-Man in for a start.
Well, this is like what we've just been saying about the Joker film, where can you imagine just like these lads around the table as a joke, right? Let's make Spider-Man films without Spider-Man and make them as bad as possible, and I bet people still come and see it.
Oh, of course. But why centre a film around a character that wasn't even she was barely a side character. She was more of a MacGuffin kind of character or a trope to get Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Or that's what I remember from the old animated series.
Yeah, well, when they first announced it, I was intrigued because of the type of character she was. I thought, this is interesting. And then when I saw the trailer and they've just gone with a young, sexy Madame Web, I thought, again, that is not who Madame Web is. And I don't think I've ever seen an iteration of her like that. Later comics, they tried to do something like that with a body swap or something, but classic Madame Web doesn't even move. She just lives in the interdimensional space or whatever.
Yeah, she's tangled into it as well, isn't she? She's got no body. She's like in part of a cocoon or something. And yeah, it was bizarre. I didn't finish it, and I didn't finish the film that's number one on the list. I didn't finish watching that either. I just kind of switched off and never went back to watching the rest of it. And I would say the only good thing that Madame Web did was it introduced me to Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
Every cloud.
I read something about that, She told someone she was really glad to be part of the MCU. And someone said, you're not.
Yeah. But they teased all of the what's the name of the characters? You'll know this better than me. And that's in the trailer. She was teased to look to be in that costume, and I think it was like a big intrigue to say, oh yeah, we're going to see these other characters, and it was in like a dream sequence that lasted 2 minutes, and you've got this baddie that's dressed as Spider-Man and can do everything that Spider-Man can do, but yeah, it didn't make any sense. It was just crap. Anyway, let's move on. I can't even be asked to talk about it because the next one's going to annoy me. And number one, I used to like his work. Zack Snyder did 300, which I thought was brilliant. I enjoyed Man of Steel. The Snyderverse stuff kind of went down the toilet a bit, but Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, the only thing it gave me was a bloody headache. I just thought it was a massive pile of shite. And there's any wonder why this was a Star Wars script that even Kathleen Kennedy and the current Lucasfilm morons turned down. How bad could it have been for them lot to turn it down? And Zack Snyder just gone in and done all of his Snyder stuff, and has just made. I think there's 6 films he's planning, or 5 films he's planning on this Rebel Moon stuff. And each one has a director's cut, so you've got to watch the shit version to watch an extended shit version. Just crap.
My question to you is he a good filmmaker that's making some bad choices lately, or is he a bad filmmaker that's been lucky?
I think he's a bad filmmaker who's been lucky.
I think his style, it fit in a couple of decades ago, but I think films moved on from that kind of 300.
Style over substance.
Yeah, but that, I think in the 2000s, that was in, Yeah. Mission Impossible 2 and things like that, where it was just craziness. People don't go for that now.
Rebel Moon 1, I didn't finish watching that, so I don't know why I started watching Part 2. The characters are just really poorly written as well. They're just hard to get your head around why you should feel any emotion towards any of these characters, why you should feel any connection towards them. They're just very hollow written. We have to have this character who can do this, and we're going to have that character who can do that. And you can see the Star Wars influences in there. Obviously, it was a Star Wars script, the Empire versus the Rebels, Rebel in the title. But as a poor, cheap rip-off, and there have been so many poor, cheap rip-offs of Star Wars, this has to rank down there with, like, Turkish Star Wars. Have you ever seen that?
No, mate. I never got around to watching because I heard from people like yourself, and we were talking a bit earlier about how finite time is, especially at this age of life as well. And I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not subjecting myself to it.
No, it's ridiculously bad, and I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So
No.
it was easier to pick a top 5 worst list than it was a top 5 best list.
Well, we are the Critical Cinema Club, aren't we, to be fair? So
Yeah, we've got to criticise, haven't we? But I would say that 2024 has not been the best of years, and I'm quite hopeful for 2025. And in the next video, we are going to discuss films that are probably, we are intrigued by. Whether we're going to watch them or not, I don't know. If you have your favourites or your least favourite films of 2024, by all means, let us know in the comments. But thank you very much for watching us rant away about these films. So, I've been Colm.
I've been Sean.
We've been the Critical Cinema Club, and we'll see you in 2025.
Peace.